Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Eco Solutions. I'm your host, Sara Troy, and this is the Get Synced series. Today we have, all the way from Italy, is Paola Fiore, flower, and she's going to bloom for us today with information. A lot of people, when they're looking at climate change and the change of climate that we need to bring about, everybody's thinking about renewable energy. But what we really need to be looking at is renewable e-commerce. There's always money, the bottom line of every single thing that we do. And this is her forte. It is about sustainability both for humanity and industry, how we can actually all come together and find that sustainability in our economics so we can make the changes into positive energy, both practical energy that empowers us and the energy that is within us. Because only when we're willing to embrace the change can we be the change that is necessary. So we're going to dive into a wonderful conversation today about how we can gain our sustainability, how we can do it in a way that isn't threatening, that isn't fearful, and that every single one of us could be a part of or get behind and support. So wonderful to have you on the show, Paola. Beautiful to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sara, and it's really a pleasure to be here with you and all your guests today. Thank you.
Well, the people that are listening to these series, and there's been so much that we've had already, wonderful nuggets of information and empowerment. They're ordinary people who have decided to follow a path, that is a part of the solution to the global problem. And a lot of people think, well, yes, they're in that position, that's their job or that's their passion. We forget it's always ordinary people that do the extraordinary things that change everything. And so we all have the power within us to actually help the change along and be a part of that solution, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you just mentioned, Sara, yes, we are in a moment of big changes. I would say deep changes that are about not only, our planet, so the overall planetary ecological system, but I would say also all of us as humanity, as human beings. So it's really like being in a moment of transition, and usually when we listen to this word, we think about our individuality, but in reality, we are doing this sort of journey together with our larger community, and it's getting more and more necessary to become aware of such a journey, such a challenge, such an important moment we are all going through together.
Yeah. I always say it's the I am joining the we are, and it's when you step into your I am this is my instrument, this is what I play, and I'm going to join the we are, the orchestra of life, so we can play in harmony and create a symphony. We have to know what our part is in it, don't we? And that what ignites a passion within you that you want to stand up for, that you want to speak out for. And that's where it all starts, doesn't it? Here on this Get Synced series, I've just realized we're both in synced in striped tops. So I'm blue, you're pink there. And that's the thing is the synchronicity of desire to live in a world that is peaceful, harmonious, sustainable, productive is something we all want. But there's been so much chatting about yelling at each other instead of let's sit down and find the common denominator, and how to find out those resolves by listening to one another and putting all options on the table and looking at it. We're really at that time where we really need to speak together, don't we? Not at one another, to one another.
Yeah, absolutely true, Sara. And I would also add that each of us would need also to start listening to ourselves, our inner self. And I would say that this is probably, you know, the core of everything. To try to look at our inner values, what we really stand for, we feel passionate about, motivated, you know, because I think this is very important to start the process of listening to the other people as well. And starting from our inner values, it's also getting easier, you know, to open ourselves in the best, simple, and authentic way to the others. And this process of listening immediately creates, you know, the basis for creating trust. And trust is absolutely at the base of everything, and in particular in this moment in history, to create, I would say, a new sustainable society, but also new sustainable economy or commerce, as you just mentioned. This is fundamental. I mean, we continue to, you know, hear about different source of renewable energy, and obviously that's the best path we have to follow. Everyone, the industry, the businesses, you know, the families, the community. There's no other better solution than switch 100% the sooner as possible to that kind of energy, and leave the fossil fuel era to go to a zero economy, you know, zero carbon economy. But we won't be able to do that, I believe, if we're not at the same time working on ourselves, our community, to, let's say, recreate that space that can allow us to create sustainable actions, sustainable solutions, you know, and I would say a better life for everyone.
And that's really what it's about. You hit the big word, and of course it's one of my favorite words, is community. You know, we're all part of a global community. Well, you know, it doesn't matter what happens in this country or that country. We are all residents of Earth. And what we do in one country has an effect on Earth, which ricochets to another. So when we decide and we make the choice to step up into some accountability, some responsibility for our own actions, and decide to be a part of that solution in our community, whether it be global or just your village, you know, it is, you're already being a part of the equation, the positive equation. But to deny it and say, oh, it's somebody else's responsibility, I don't need to do anything, you have actually stepped into being the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And this is another key point, Sarah, you know, stepping up for the problem or stepping up for the solution, you know. And this immediately puts ourselves on a path or the opposite. Obviously, especially when we talk about, you know, the climate crisis, that I would say not only me, but Al Gore in person says that it's already a crisis because everyone can see, you know, the impacts of climate change. So it's already much happening, unfortunately. And when we think about, you know, what is happening, we look usually at these big challenges as a problem, you know. In front of that, we feel very, very little as human. We feel that or we can do nothing, you know, or is not our problem. There will be always someone else that will take care of that problem. But in reality, if, and this is, I would say, what is happening when we decide to take the path of the problem, you know, we see the challenge as a problem. But if we decide to see on the opposite way, to see that challenge as an opportunity, we immediately look for possible solution, you know.
And there are so many of them.
Absolutely.
When you decide to plug into that, it's an absolutely extraordinary. You know, they always say the need brings about, you know, the creativity. We're seeing right now a plastic crisis you know, in the world. If we do not clean those oceans up, we will have no fish. It's going to change the currents. It's going to change the weather. The domino effect is absolutely horrific. But we're seeing not only beautiful innovations of cleaning up the plastic, reusing the plastic, making canoes out of bottles, making homes out of these plastic bottles, making roads out of the plastic. The thing is like, oh, there's a problem in the ocean. The fish are dying. Yeah. So stop throwing your garbage in the ocean, be a part of the cleanup, and maybe plug in some of that creative, wacky innovation in your head, because you have no idea where it's going to go or what it's going to provide, right? As you said, we can't look to someone else. This is not the politician's problem. This is an earthly problem that we're a part of, but we need to empower our politicians on how to handle it. Because they're powerless right now, right? They haven't got the right tools, which of course, if you go back onto the shows, folks, and listen to the simple solutions, it's a brilliant way of getting your politicians involved. But we have to work together, because the whole thing is there are many solutions, as you said, out there. Masses amount, fossil fuel has to go. But look at history. Look when the Industrial Revolution that came and how people fought back. Then the Industrial Revolution became archaic, and new other revolutions came about. All we're doing is stepping into another revolution that is more sustainable.
Yeah, exactly, Sarah. And in fact, this is another revolution, really. This is the sustainability revolution that is already going on since few years. And it can't be stopped. It won't be stopped, because it is too strong.
Yes.
You know, and also
already happening.
It's already happening, and you know, it is also supported by so many movements, so many global movements. And if we think about the climate movement, I would say that nowadays the climate movement is just like you know, the mother of all the environmental battles, but it's key not only for protecting the environment and our planet Earth, it's key also for, you know, human rights, social justice, democracy, you know, and the well-being of our overall planet, the overall ecosystem of which we are part. Because I think that one of the key issues is, you know, becoming aware as people, as individual, as a part of our family, groups, community, you know, workplace, that we are part of systems, you know, that are part of other bigger systems. And we need to start thinking in another way. I would say really more like a systemic way, you know, because that's the way in reality nature and all the natural resources work, you know.
Everything has a job.
Exactly.
And they work together. I mean, you look at the forest, you know, the trees and the amount of work that they do, the carbon, you know, the purification of the air, I mean, the shelter, the matrix that they have underneath, and the communication, the vibration that they set off. Everything has a job, a role to play. And that role in the synchronicity and the cohesiveness is actually what raised. Let's think about this. The planet was here a hell of a lot longer than we were, and it was doing fine without us. And then along came us, and we, especially in the last couple of 100 years, have treated it very badly. We haven't respected it, and we haven't looked at it as our sustainability or as our partner. We somehow got this idea that we're more superior. And that isn't the case. We are, as a species, designed to work together. And this is something we seem to have forgotten. And we've gone off, and especially industries have gone off, oh, I want to monopolize this big monopoly. And it isn't about monopoly. It's not about competitiveness at all expense. It's about collaboration, right? It's about global creativity. It's about bringing innovations from everywhere around the world, putting them on the table, because they create together in their symphony the solution that we're wanting. So in a lot of ways, we've got to drop the borders, don't we? And we have to come to the table as human beings, not as, you know, a Brit or a US or Italian or this, that, but as human beings.
Exactly. And I had this other metaphor in mind, always thinking about, you know, the climate movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this relates to what you just said. And the climate movement can help us in this moment in history to build bridges and not walls. And we need those bridges.
Mm-hmm.
We need to create that global unity.
Yes.
You know, on different level, you know, for our well-being as human beings, for the present and future generation, but also to recreate a new economical system, because the one where we have, I mean, it has served us, you know, in many different ways. But just we mentioned before, a new revolution that is happening right now, you know, I mean, change is inevitable, you know.
Resistance is futile.
Exactly. So we need also to acknowledge what is happening and make it an opportunity, not only for us as individuals, but for the overall community that we are all part of.
Now let's talk about the fear. And the fear is, you know, obviously you've got the fear. I think the fundamental resistance to the change, to the more environmental way of practicing things is money, or I don't want to lose my job, or the company I don't want to lose. I mean, you think about petroleum, what, you know, a massive industry it is, and they're afraid they're going to lose, obviously, you know, their power. But what we're seeing, especially in a lot of the coal mines and other gasoline, petroleum plants, they're pulling down the stacks, and they're making those plants now solar panel plants of empowering. So it's just a switching over from what they have been doing to this new technology, and embracing the inevitable change, because if you don't change, you will become obsolete. But the fundamental fear of everybody is income.
Yeah,
you don't want to lose it.
Exactly, Sarah. It is so true. It's income. It's, you know, probably also the status quo. And obviously it's about the labor, you know, the work.
Yeah.
So what you just mentioned is obviously about, you know, the movement of just transition, you know, and it's about especially the fossil fuel industry. So it's about carbon, it's about petroleum, fuel, and also gas.
Yes.
But what is happening, and this is incredible if we think about it, is that some of the main company about these, let's say, old polluting sectors are really transitioning from an old era to the newest one. And this obviously affects jobs.
Yes.
So thousands of jobs have been created already in renewable energy sectors. And it's not only about, you know, just brand new renewable energy companies or startups that just, you know, started to work in their field. No, some of them, they are about the old companies, you know. So this is also a process of transitioning, you know, the culture, the company culture, the label culture. And obviously, this is about also, I would say, a big responsibility of this company to support their employees to make this transition. Because obviously, individually, you know, each employee, I mean, obviously feels care about their present and futures.
Right.
So, I mean, it's absolutely natural. It's human. Each of us would be scared.
Yes. You know? Yeah, there was a couple of men, I can't remember their names, that was on TV a little while ago. Actually, it was on The Daily Show. And it was all about this war in America on sustainability. And they were saying they're not worried. For the last 30 years, they've been building the sustainable platform of changing energy, and they had actually closed down 9 coal mines and taken every one of those employees that wasn't close to retirement age and re-educated them, and now they're far more savvy in tech, right? So they're trained in different type of tech now. They're earning more money. They're not putting their life at risk. They're healthier, right? And there is a bigger future for them because this tech industry is just growing, right? And so it's completely changed community lives. So if we are willing to make the changes, and the company is willing to make the changes, and everybody comes together and say, this is a learning curve that we're going to do slowly in that transition, it isn't so knee-jerk and it isn't so paralyzing. It just shows change is inevitable. Let's do it together and support one another, and that will make the change easier. But we have to have that approach, don't we?
No, it's so true, Sarah, especially I think because of our Western culture so far, you know. I mean, each of us in US, in Europe, have been taught, you know, to behave in a certain way. Let's say in the individual way instead of the group collective way. You know, but I think that nowadays, especially in this moment of history, we do need to make this transition with our own thinking. So it's not I anymore, is I, we. And the next step is we. You know, so if we start thinking, you know, in everything we do in terms of we, or I and we together. So obviously the I is fundamental because it's about recognizing our inner values, you know, what we stand for. So it's about our personal contribution. But we put this contribution, we offer our contribution and ourselves to the rest of the group for the benefit, the well-being of everyone. So this is the way that we need to, you know, start thinking. And if we start thinking in this way, anything becomes possible. Even in front of such a big challenges we are facing right now, just like the climate crisis, you know, or the big change that the industry, the economy has to make. From a carbon economy to a net zero carbon economy.
Well, let's talk about the economy, because we've talked about the individual and what we can do. And basically, you seek out there's so many changes going on. Which one do you resonate with and become a part of it, right? Become a part of the us, part of the we. And we've talked about industries have to change. But of course, we're going back to the economic side of things. You know, in the simple policy, along with Nick and John, the book, and the policy about voting in politicians that are willing to stand behind this policy, which is across, you know, bipartisan policy. It's a policy that serves every government, because it's about the synchronicity of everybody making the changes to these policies around the world at the same time, so no one person has power over the other. Because obviously all of these changes, there is an economic cost to it, yes, obviously. There's new training has to be done, new machinery that has to be done, a lot of stuff has to change. And we know the fear of the bottom line is people losing their job. But this change is going to happen, whether you like it or not. There's no point in fighting it. It is already in the process. How do we address the people that are really, you know, the companies that are scared about the economic side of things, of losing that power? How do you see this financial change, the climate of money in this industry changing in a way that will make them more embracing of the change?
That's a great question, Sara, and thank you for asking this. So I think that, you know, it's not only about economics, but it's also about finance. And fortunately, the financial sector has already moved in the sustainability direction. You know, we hear about more and more about green bonds or, you know, green investments. And what is really happening is now that big investors have started to stop funding, you know, let's say, the dirty industry, the old industry, and they're focusing exactly on the newest industry. And obviously this is one of the greatest signs that you know, the owners of the big company, the CEOs, the directors, the board of directors have to face. I mean, that's the best answer. You know, if the big investors are going already in that direction, the direction of renewable energy and all the best available technologies about green economy, I mean, the fears, you know, or the changes.
It's get with the program, isn't it? Because, you know, a lot of people think too that if we go to green and sustainable energy, that there isn't money in it. You know, there's money in oil. And of course, they have no idea. I mean, we have wind turbines, we have solar panels, we have many other forms of producing energy, innovations coming up every single day. There is so much industry around this, isn't it? That it really, it's just a question of, what did we do before computers came along? And look how reliant we are on computers. And then from the computer, do you remember the computer used to be the size of a city block?
Yes.
Right? You know, and it was 96 when I got my first computer, and it was the dial-up to get the internet, and everything was so slow. And look where we are now. Everything is on the watch. Exactly. You know, it's that happened at such an escalation because it addressed so many needs. Now, the ecological side of technology is addressing so many needs. And whether you like it or not, it is happening, it is changing. But look at the industry that it's creating. There are plenty of jobs for all, aren't they? They're just different type of jobs.
Exactly. There are different types of jobs. And in fact, they are evolving with the transition. You know, with the challenge. I mean, they are already created, you know, by the challenge that is seen as an opportunity and not as a problem. Because if you see a challenge as a problem, it would be very difficult to find a solution because you will go for the causes. But we don't need to look for the causes. We need to find the solution. So we have already to, you know, to start with a solution focus direction. You know, and we will find the solution because our mind is already projected towards finding.
We're so creative, aren't we?
Exactly.
We're incredibly creative species. Again, computer folks, internet, everything we're doing here right now was somebody's creation. A spark of an idea that grew and grew and grew. And as I said, there is no stopping it now, right? So it's the same with our renewable energy. It is just, first and foremost, you have to change the thoughts in order to change the system.
Yes.
All right. And if we look at, oh, but I can't do that, then you're limiting yourself. And instead of being the species of inquisitiveness, ooh, I wonder if I can do that. Ooh, that would be fun to try. Oh, I'm going to stretch my legs on this one and see how far I can go. If we start talking like that, then we will really find those innovations, the creativity. Look at the kids today. How many kids are coming up with innovations, extraordinary ideas, right? Because they don't believe they can't. They only believe they can.
Exactly. And that's the main difference. Thank you, Sarah, so much for pointing this out. And this is really the big difference about the old culture we've grown up with and the new culture that we need to embrace as soon as possible. Because, you know, just like, it's just like, exactly. It's just like when we talk about coaching, you know, coaches support someone else in seeing possibilities, in seeing opportunities, instead of being, you know, feeling stuck. So that's the main difference. And if we start thinking in this way, I mean, we can also take advantage even more of the many possibilities that nature, you know, the ecosystem services have offered us already and can still offer us, even though we already use a lot of them. But just to make you an example, here in Italy, there are a few startups company that they came up with incredible ideas. They use some waste resources to create tissue to make clothes from orange, from other fruit, for example, the waste of orange. And this is amazing. I mean, could we imagine something like this about even 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I don't think so, to be honest. And when you before mentioned oil, you know, oil just like money. But nowadays, water is like gold, you know, and all the natural resources that we have are the best source of richness. I wouldn't say money anymore, because we also need to to make another change. We need to transition to, you know, the terminology about growth, but I would say prosperity. How can be, how can we create prosperity for our community, for everyone? Because not necessarily growing, you know, the system, the economics can create wellness, well-being for everyone. Usually it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're going from the ivory towers where, you know, they're so high up in the clouds, they have no reality of what's going on the ground, or what the people really need. It's just, as long as they're, you know, in the castle counting their gold, right? We're going from that. And of course, in still certain parts of the world, we're still seeing leaders that are in their ivory towers protecting the old paradigm as, you know, as desperately as they can. But you know, what they don't realize is the tower at the foundation is crumbling and is coming down, whether they like it or not, because it wasn't even necessarily governments that started the movement. It was individual organizations who have started this, and now governments that are savvy have caught on, and they realize that the investment in humanity and planet will produce profit. Right? The investment in something that is harming our planet and producing profit only for a few is not serving our humanity. So the enrichment is within us. We are the abundance we seek. And when we change our perspective into a more enrichment, and that is love, caring, participation, possibilities, opportunities, creativity, then we actually realize where the riches really lie, and they lie in those beautiful souls of innovation and creativity.
Yeah, it's so true, Sarah. And in fact, I would say this is part of the change and the transition as well, in the sense that we do need to move in this other direction. What I mean is that, for example, we can't continue. You mentioned plastic before, you know, and obviously each of us, we cannot continue to consume, you know, to produce the huge amount of plastic in our everyday life.
Right.
At home, at work, everywhere. It's just impossible.
Right.
Impossible. But if we, you know, if we start think in another way, in the way that you just described, and we start seeing ourselves with the things that we really need to feel better. First of all, inside with ourselves, and then with the others, we immediately realize that we are going to a time where not the goods, you know, the concrete, the tangible goods would be important to us, but what is in our minds, in our hearts, you know, what we will be able to share. So I would say our economy is going, or is better, it will go as soon as possible towards a human service economy. So the labor, for example, there would be less labor done with hands, and more labors that will require an even greater use of our brains. You know, but not only at an individual level, but at a collective level, just like when computers are connected, you know, just creating networks of minds.
If we all plug in, we become the supercomputer.
Exactly.
Right? Because it is our collectiveness that creates it. That. Now, of course, if you go and look at TV shows, you know, Star Trek and the collective, the Borg, the simulation, which when you looked at communism, it started off as a principle of the idea of everyone sharing and being on equal footing, and then it became something else. Those were all forms of transition. You know, that system didn't work. Where was it flawed? Let's do it better next time. But what we are looking at about is a collectiveness. You know, the universe is made up of collective energy. You know, it's all these different frequencies that create a harmony, and an energy flow that generates. We are our own generators. We are our own energy. And when we step into our energy, rise up our frequency and our vibration, we're stepping into possibilities that you mentioned. We're stepping into creativity, but we're stepping into that collective energy. And then the I am, my possibilities I'm bringing to the table of the we are in that collectiveness expands. And that is just science, right? Energy begets energy. It expands on each other. What we've seen in the world is the feeding of negative energy. And this is why we keep going around in spirals of war and dictatorship and killing each other and creating weapons of mass destruction, because we have been feeding the wrong energy. Switch the switch over to the positive energy of possibilities that serves mankind, not kills mankind, and we will see an expansion of energy like none other before.
It's so true, Sarah. And this is such another important point. And you mentioned science. And yes, absolutely. The latest neuroscience study are saying that, you know, really our brain is evolving.
Yes.
In this way, without even we can realize this.
Yeah.
But it's really evolving.
Yeah.
You know, and when before I mentioned trust, trust is really at the base to allow our brain, in particular the prefrontal cortex, where, you know, creativity, freedom, system
empathy,
thinking resides. Absolutely. We, in this way, we allow our brains to continually evolve for creating those important collaboration, those networks, you know, that we allow humanity to make that necessary step to transition. You know, and this is exactly what we're referring at the beginning. Is not only about renewable energy in terms of economy, but is also important, fundamental, the other part. And this is key.
Yes.
This is key.
I mean, you know, you talk about the frontal lobe. It's very interesting. I'm totally off topic in a way, but I did this brilliant series on narcissism. And, you know, narcissistics are developed because they do not learn at that very young age empathy, caring for another. They're still in that flight or fight or that meme survival mode, and so they never develop caring or empathy for others. Now, you're talking about this frontal lobe, which we also refer to as the third eye, and the reason we refer to it as the third eye is that it sees something that sometimes our eyes are too blind to see. So I always say, step out into the abyss, blind, deaf, and dumb, in order to see, hear, and feel. Because sometimes we rely too much on these senses. They block those other senses that are there that really want to show us the way. So I think sometimes we have to step out of ourselves, don't we?
Absolutely.
Go deeper into ourselves to understand what it is we're really seeing. I say this about knowledge. You can have an awful lot of knowledge. You can be the most knowledgeable person in the world. If you don't have the wisdom on how to use that knowledge, then it's just knowledge. You're just a library. It's when that person opens that book and knows what to do with the knowledge. That's where it becomes the empowerment. And this is what we're asking people to do right now. Open that frontal lobe of your empowerment, of your inner knowledge, because we cannot stop this expansion. It's already gathered a momentum, and it's kind of, you know, get on the boat or sync. Really, we're at that stage, aren't we?
Absolutely, it's so true. And yeah, I would also add, you know, the importance not only empathy, but obviously emotional intelligence, but
Yes.
also I would say conversational intelligence.
Thank you.
You know?
Yeah. Yes.
And these
That's an
again relate
art.
to trust,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
to the ability to listen, but listen at different level, a deeper and deeper level, and also ability to communicate in different ways, you know, starting from what's my intention? What's really my intention? Do I want to create collaboration? Do I want to share? Or do I want to just exchange information? Or do I want to prevail,
Right.
you know, on the other with the other person, on the other person? So the intention and the attention to
Yes.
intention that we have and attention that we have also is fundamental. And this is also what is affecting our brains, the evolutions of our brain, and what the neuroscience are working also at this time is the deep connection that there is with let's say our heart brain, as they call it, and our brain, you know, divided into the different parts. Someone says 5, considering, you know, the prefrontal cortex and the neocortex, 2 different parts. Some other, the old school say 3 parts of the brain, you know, but everything is connected.
Yes.
You know, and this connection deep inside of us also reflects outside and can create other connection with other people, other human beings.
Resonating. That's the
Exactly.
resonance. What is the resonance of you? Now, for so long, probably even for the last century, everything has been head up. What's your intellect? How important are you? How many letters by your name? And what we stopped doing was the instinctual trusting the gut, the soul, divine knowledge, the heart, the resonance with it, the spirit, and actually the intention of what we're going to do in action. Right? And then the mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. I love the attention to the intention and the intention to attend something, right? It's really important. I was talking to a scientist once, and during our conversation, he had a little epiphany, and he said, I understand. We measure science like energy by frequency or by, you know, volts and this and that. And he said, now I realize that spiritual people who choose to live in that higher realm, are actually already living in that frequency, that energy. And it's not a woo-woo thing. It's an energy of a higher frequency and level, that the higher you go in it, the more you step into love, self-love, love of each other, love of planet. And it's not a kumbaya abstinence. No. It becomes an ownership of my contribution. Exactly. And I think this rising up of our frequency right now is inviting people to self-love, to share love, to resonate that intent, and to be a part of the equation. And this is why we're seeing so much innovation happening, because of that rising up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, Sarah. And yeah, can you imagine if everyone on this planet could be aware of these different levels, you know,
yes.
and I mean, owns authentically these 3 levels for himself or herself and for the rest of humanity. But this is possible, you know.
It's happening. Again, it is happening.
Yes. It's happening already in many communities that are expanding incredibly, you know, expanding about a particular area of knowledge, but also creating new ways of living together in communities.
Yes.
And it's really happening everywhere in the world.
We're kind of going back to how it used to be, because when you look at a village in the past, they had everybody in it, including the village idiot, and everybody again had their role. And that village was only as strong as everybody coming together in support, in celebration, in protection. If they didn't, that village would crumble. And so what we're doing is asking people to get synced in that synchronicity of coming together as a global village. and is serving one another, protecting and loving and supporting and celebrating one another. That's really what we're asking, isn't it? But again, it's, we want you to join the feast of life, but what dish are you bringing? Because if it's sour, we don't want it, right? We want a dish that really is going to feed the possibilities and that we can feast on and allow those creativities to flow. And as I said, it is happening. The reason that we don't hear about it on the mainstream news is because they're still feeding the old paradigm. They're still feeding the fear. They're still feeding the panic and the chaos, because that's still the old management's way of keeping people in control.
Exactly.
The other way is the control of the people is to invite them to have self-control. And to want to be a part of the equation. Now you're actually in control of something. But when you come at it from a place of fear, then you've lost control, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and in fact, this is where, you know, the most of awareness is needed.
Yes.
To make this transitioning process faster, you know.
Yeah.
We need to get rid of our fears. We need, I would say, first, the origin of our fears, because otherwise, I don't think, you know, the majority of people will get rid of their fears forever. Fears, in a way or in another, will come back. But
and we don't want to be so fearless that we're stupid. You know, the fear has its reasons. Don't walk in front of a bus. There's a reason for it, right?
Absolutely. There's a reason.
Don't be crippled by them.
Exactly. There are some fears that, you know, have some positive meaning, but some other fears that doesn't.
Yes.
And we need to understand the origin of those fears to get rid of them, you know, and don't go in that space anymore.
Yeah.
But trust our own fears, the fears that we can control, but not the fears that are imposed to us, you know, by the system, by the culture. So this is another key piece.
Right. You see, you know, when you've got two fears in play right now. You've got one, the government fear. You're going to lose your jobs. You know, the country is going to lose its power if it changes to alternative energies. Then you've got the other fear that if we don't do anything, this planet isn't going to be around for us anymore. And then you've also got another dialogue coming in from environmentalists saying, but this planet's going through a normal transition that it would go through. Look at history. Right? And then it's going through these changes and shifts because that's what this planet does. But then there's another argument, yes, but how much of us humans are forcing that change to be faster? And also, how much can we prepare for those natural changes as opposed to the imposed changes? There's such a conversation to be had here that if we stop focusing only on one or the other and we put everything on the table, we would be able to have that conversation where we would find the resolve. And what's the common word we're looking for here amongst everything in our hearts, in our souls, in our economics, in our environment is sustainability. Right? And if we're all addressing sustainability that allows us to grow, allows the planet to stabilize, allows us to adjust to whatever is naturally occurring in the environmental change, we're looking at that sustainability because that's our security.
Yeah, absolutely. And sustainability is also about security. You know, our security on this planet, our health on this planet. And I mean, health issues are rising tremendously everywhere, not only because of the impacts of the climate change, but also because the way we address that issue, but also we fed ourselves, you know, what we eat, what we drink, you know, for decades, you know, and
chemicals.
I mean, this is something that really needs to be changed as soon as possible. If we think about the traditional food system, the agro industry, it has to change completely.
We have more disease today
we
than we've
have.
ever had. And yet we
Yeah,
have more. I've just seen a thing of a guy who had arm transplants. We can do heart, liver, lungs, eyes, you name it, skin transplants, arm transplants. We can do 3D models of bodies. You know, we can do all of that miraculous stuff. But what we can't do is sustain our health. And anxiety is one that's driving things up. The amount of sugar in foods, the amount of fructose and chemicals that is changing our chemistry in our body, that's bringing about dis-ease.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at a world that is so unhealthy today. There is more food on the planet than has ever been. There is more waste than ever before. Somewhere along the line, we're not doing it right, folks. We have to rethink this. And part of it, this is a dial back to the old days. Grow what you eat locally, eat without the preservatives, shop regularly so you're not having to have these preservatives keep things on the shelves for months at a time, right? Cook more, right? Instead of fast foods and all of that. Some things we do have to go back to the old ways in order to be healthier, because this fast way of living and eating is what's killing us.
Absolutely. It's not only, you know, by a physical point of view, but also emotional, spiritual, you know, and I'm just thinking that, you know, what is unhealthy for us usually is unsustainable for the planet, and vice versa. What is sustainable for the planet usually is good for our health.
Yes. Well, we're all part of the same energy, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
We are. So this is another key message that is important to, you know, tell everyone, share with everyone. And obviously this is going to impact, you know, the way we produce, we consume. But I would also say that the more the people are informed about what is good for their health and for the planet at the same time, the more the people can decide what to buy, or not to buy. And this is an incredible power that each of us as global citizens and global consumers have. You know, we can tell companies, we can tell different industry, we want to change.
Yes.
We want to change the system because it doesn't work anymore.
Right. That's why we're seeing veganism on the rise. We're seeing organic shopping on the rise. You know, when we do look at the way we're manufacturing animals, it is deplorable what we're doing. But it's also the grain that it takes to feed those animals could feed the world of hunger. The amount of water they're taking is precious that we're losing. The amount of, I think it's methane that they're producing is damaging our planet. And it's also unethical. And immoral what we're doing. So, you know, there's so many aspects that we could look at things. And you know what, you know, your roast beef on a Sunday, you know, may have to go, but out of need comes innovation. And Richard Branson and many others have come about these, you know, soyable and plant-based foods that taste like meat, that are actually extraordinary. You know, they have vegan butchers now. Right? And this is the thing, is like, oh, veganism, you know, I don't want to be a granola person. Do you want to be a healthier person? Right? And it may not be full vegan, maybe you're just vegetarian. But the point is, as you said earlier, what goes in our body is what's going to come out, not just in health, but it's also, it affects our minds.
Absolutely.
And negative food in creates negativity going out.
Exactly, absolutely. And in fact, we have now many startup companies in the food and innovation industry. They are working about plant-based proteins.
Yes.
It's incredible what they are doing. They are creating, you know, hamburger that they are not made of animal meat.
Right.
That for the moment they call it meat, but is coming from the plant.
Yes.
You know, but the taste is incredibly very similar. So
I had fish and chips the other day that I didn't know wasn't fish, right? And A&W over here in Canada and North America has come up with a vegan burger that is so popular that they can't keep up with the demand. You know, and the thing is that, again, you're so used to your burger. It's become a tradition for you. But when you pick up that burger, you've got to understand what you're feeding. right? And what you're feeding is an industry that is damaging our planet, that is causing starvation, that is consuming all our water, which is, as you said earlier, our golden product right now. We are a planet that needs water, and without it, we do not sustain. There is no sustainability without it. So every time you pick up that burger, you've got to be very conscious on so many levels of what you're feeding, right?
But I would say, Sarah, sorry to interrupt you, I would say in particular, first of all, what you're feeding is affecting your health. So yourself first,
Yes.
you know. So if that burger is creating damage, the first one that gets the damage, it's you.
Yes.
It's your body inside, and also outside is your brain.
Yeah.
You know?
It affects everything. And it's basically your health cannot sustain itself because you're putting garbage in. Exactly. And it's like your vehicle, your car. If you put in low quality oil in there and gasoline, you're going to go put along, and somewhere along the line it's going to go blop, right? It's the same with us. What we put in is going to maximize our performance, and if we put in inferior, then our performance isn't going to be very good.
Exactly. And that damage creates a lot of diseases.
Yes.
And most of these diseases are allergy, you know, are
diabetes.
Diabetes.
Look at the increase of diabetes today.
Yeah, because of the incredible amount of sugar that we have everywhere.
Yes, everything. Did you see the movie, the Sugar movie?
Yeah.
It's, you know, the young man, I recommend this to everyone. It's going to wake you up. He comes from Australia. He goes throughout North America, I think just in 6 weeks, and has a North American diet. Yeah. And the amount of sugar that's in everything, he puts on 15 pounds. When he goes back, the detoxification that he had to go through was horrific. And you look at type 2 diabetes today. Right now, diabetes 1 is, you know, is something totally different, but type 2 diabetes is an entirely a diet-based disease, and it's being treated as common as a cold, and it's completely manageable by diet, and it is your diet that caused it in the first place.
That's true.
Right? And it's because, as you said, they put sugar in it. Even they say sugar-free, there's a fructose in there that mimics sugar, right? That is even more detrimental to you. So mindfulness, please, mindfulness. If you want to sustain the planet, sustain you first.
Yeah, exactly. That's really the key. Sustain ourselves first to be able to sustain also our planet.
Yes, we can't be a part of something if we're all broken down, right? Yeah, exactly. So we need to be that plump, juicy human being that can contribute to it.
Absolutely. And there's a great need, you know, the contribution to everyone.
Yeah. Yes.
Really, we need everyone become aware, active.
Yeah. But we're the solution we seek, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's not the politicians, it's not the corporations. Just like we do at the grocery store, our spending will make them change, right? Yeah, exactly. If we stop supporting them and demand alternative ways of shopping, it's the same with leather. You have pleather today, right? You have stuff that looks so much like leather, you don't even know it's not leather, and it's actually stronger, more durable. There are so many innovations. The more you back these companies developing this, the more we're going to see the embracement of change, and the more you're going to realize of the practices that we have been doing, how unsustainable they are, but or how detrimental they are to us. So the economics of where we're going isn't just the oil companies changing over to maybe solar or whatever they want to go to, re-educating people. We know that all those manufacturing jobs are going to be automated anyway. Yeah. It's happening already. Human beings at that level are already losing their jobs. So for people who are used to that kind of job, they're now being invited to use the brain cells and expand and learn something else that can take them further in life. Those are the kind of jobs that are plentiful right now. So it's not about just pushing our companies to do that and realizing that that transition can still equally be sustainable, but it's also about our own inner stability and what we bring to the equation, and we affect that by how we shop, how we treat each other, how we eat, you know, what we use in our homes, even the energy, what are we using alternative type of energy sources? If we step into mindfulness through heartfulness, then we start being part of the equation that is part of the solution.
Absolutely, Sarah. It's so true. And yes, I would say that sustainability starts within ourselves. You know, on all the different levels that you mentioned, it's about taking little steps every day. We can take it at the supermarket, we can take it before going out, going to work. You know, it's about being with ourselves on, you know, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual level, to be able to also sustain other human beings to do the same, because it has to be something that you know,
a chain reaction.
Exactly, a sort of chain reaction. We can't leave it for ourselves, because that's not the purpose.
It's not about me, myself, and I, you know, the glum glum from The Hobbit. It is about you being as enriched and as abundant as you can be, and let your cup runneth over. Because the more fruitful and abundant you are, the more you've got to share. Right? And it's also about our fellow man, that is, you know, because everybody, pretty well everyone I've interviewed here in Self-Discovery Radio, at some point in their life has had a redirect that's put them on their meaningful path now. But some of those people have literally had the rug pulled from underneath them, and they've lost everything. And part of what we're doing here, there's a self-discovery community opening up very soon, and that is to help people that have lost everything get back up on their feet. And how we look at them, they're in transition. Just like the whole world is in transition right now. They're in transition from one paradigm to another. The more we enrich and pour into them, the faster they'll stand on their own 2 feet and step into their meaningful purpose, and then be that for someone else. Right? So the way to fix a broken system sometimes is a new system, but sometimes it's simply repairing something with loving kindness and support.
Sure. And loving kindness, support, compassion, empathy, they're all fundamental pieces. You know, especially...
And we can't live without them. Just like air or water, we can't live without them.
Exactly. The next step for humanity is really embrace all of these key parts.
The whole of us.
All of us.
Yeah, we've been working so much just on sections, haven't we? You know, I remember Microsoft at one point started having all of their programmers work independently of each other. Nobody knew how to work together. And we ended up with, was it Vista or whatever it was? You know, that disastrous program for a while. And they realized you couldn't have that. They did it for security reasons, but they realized, no, you had to have synergy. You had to have that synergy where there was a flow from one department to the other, so that you create the rhythm that didn't have the break, which is where we're at in life. We're creating a rhythm.
Absolutely.
Now, your business, you empower individuals, teams, and organizations to balance global sustainability, human well-beingness, and economic growth. So will you tell people a little more about how you do that and how people can find you?
Yes, this is really my purpose in life, and you know, I work with individuals, with team, with organizations, and I work to create sustainability projects. And we talk for an hour about sustainability, you know, the meaning of sustainability, and there's no one meaning equal to the other.
Right.
You know, everyone, every company, every organization creates their own meaning of sustainability, their own path. And I'm here to support all of these people, to empower all of these people, because organizations are made by people. So it's always about people, you know. And you can find me on the web. The name of my company is ETICAMENTE, and it's in Italian, and it's 2 words that for me have a fundamental importance. Etica is ethics, and ambiente is environment. So it's the unity of these 2 forces that for me are part of my inner values. You can find me on the web and just contact me if you want to, create a sustainable path for your family, for your own company, for your community. I can help you in different way, as a consultant, as a communicator, as a trainer, as a professional coach. And I'm also a volunteer. I'm volunteering on different level, for my community. And I would like to add a few words about the Climate Reality Project, for which I do a lot of passionate volunteering work. And I'm also the national coordinator for Italy for the organization. And this is an incredible way to put into practice all what we share today in our fantastic conversation, Sarah. Is being part of community where you can share, where you can create with the other people, where you can collaborate and create environmental and social goods. Okay. And you can also empower other people to do the same. So if I may add, it's important to have your professional career, but in order to make that transition, to find yourself, to increase your awareness, it's important also to do something for the other people.
Yes.
And it can be called volunteering, it can be called in another way, but it's already about sharing.
It is. Participation.
Yes. It's very, very important.
Which is illumination.
Exactly. And this is another source, another renewable source, I would say. Not coming from the sun, but coming from, the energy of human beings.
I mean, when we learn to tap into our own energy, we become our own generator.
Exactly.
And when we step into that generator of energy, feed the vessel properly, mind, body, and soul, and step into heart, we resonate on a vibrational, on energy level that sustains us, and then also can exude that energy out to others. So we are also our own sustainability if we learn how to do that, and then also know where to actually spend it. So can you please spell your sites? For those that are listening on the YouTube here, they're going to have it. But for those that are just listening, can you spell both sites so how people can follow you?
So the website of my company is ETAMBIENTE.com.
Excellent. And the other volunteer program that you do, is there a site for that?
Yes, is the Climate Reality Project. You can find it on the web as climaterealityproject.org.
Climate
Climaterealityproject.org.
Right, so climaterealityproject.org.
Yes. Yeah, and I would also invite everyone to sign up to their newsletters, to follow the Climate Reality Project on social medias, because they can give you so many information and so many ways for you to already being active, on different levels.
Yes.
And if you want to be trained just like I was by Al Gore, just sign up to the newsletter and just scroll down the home page where there is the Climate Reality Leadership Course. You can find the page of the training. We do about 3 trainings every year. And now at the end of August, there will be the largest ever training in Los Angeles, where I think Al Gore will be training about 2,050 people coming from all over the world. So it's an amazing experience.
Right. And of course, these shows are pre-recorded. So this is going to be airing in September or even October. So people just look to see when the next one is, right?
The next one will be next year.
Okay.
But please sign up to the newsletter and just stay tuned for the next training, because they are just amazing. And you will be part of a wonderful international community of over 17,000 people.
Exactly.
Right now.
And also there's this, the Get Synced project here with Alison Goodwin on the Synchronicity series, which has been a part of that, signing up for that. There's also the Polly Higgins Ecocide, Planetary Be an Earth Protector. There's also, the Simple Policy, empowering your politicians to bring about the policies that will bring us together to resolve all of these issues. There are so many ways that you can be a part of something, but the point is, be a part of something, right? Get involved. Don't just say, oh, it's somebody else's problem. No, it isn't. You live here. It's your problem too. Get involved. Do whatever you can do. Yes.
Make your voice heard.
Yes. Yes. And very, very, very important. So thank you so much, Alison, for being here today and sharing your passion and your conviction. And the big word today is sustainability, which first is within us, so it can exude out, and collaboratively we together can find what sustains us on this planet, that sustains the planet. We also have got to not forget, for the people that are more scientifically spaced environment, what happens on this planet affects what happens in the universe, and vice versa. So we owe it to existence to get out of our egos or our self-importance and step into the importance of sustaining ourselves so that we can be a part of the equation.
It's so true, Sarah. And many thanks for this incredible conversation that we have, and for your time and passion also around these incredible, important topics.
They are important topics, and a lot of people think that these are going to be such heavy science-based type series. It isn't, because there are the scientists out there, they're doing it, but some of the biggest innovations and change has come from people, ordinary people, doing extraordinary things because they saw the need and they stepped up. So we're asking people to step up into their humanity as human beings on this collective planet and be part of the village, part of the collective, part of the sustainability.
That's so true.
Thank you so much, Alison. And stay tuned for next week's show, folks. This is still continuing. There's still more wonderful people coming to you. And if you haven't got up and signed up for something by the end of this, I don't know what. But it is about what's your part in it. And we need you. And when you do step up and become a part of it, it will elevate you in so many ways. So until next time, folks, bye for now. For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.